Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. 4 days. That's how long it had been since a Utah court dismissed a woman's protective order against her husband. When that husband vanished. 8 days after that, she called the police herself to report him missing. And months later, prosecutors would allege that the same woman who made that call had already buried him. Today, we're diving into the case of Matthew Johnson, a member of the Utah Army National Guard, and his wife, Jennifer Gledhill. A case built almost entirely on cell phone data, surveillance video, and the word of a man police had never publicly named. A case where investigators found blood in a bedroom, a gun box hidden in a child's onesie, and a storage container that surfaced on its own in a wetland after a storm. And a case where, as of the most recent reporting available, the person prosecutor says was murdered has never been found. This case involves domestic violence allegations, an alleged homicide, and the separation of young children from a parent. So viewer discretion is advised. The case is formally known as State of Utah versus Jennifer Gledhill. It was filed in Utah's 3rd District Court in Salt Lake County. It's been investigated by Cottonwood Heights Police under a case number and prosecuted by the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office. But before there was a case number, there was just a marriage, already unraveling in the courts. Jennifer Gledhill and Matthew Johnson lived in Cottonwood Heights, a suburb tucked into the foothills southeast of Salt Lake City. Johnson, 51, served in the Utah Army National Guard, widely reported to be affiliated with the 19th Special Forces Group, a unit affiliation corroborated by a fellow guardsman who served alongside him for 12 years. One social media post referred to Johnson as Staff Sergeant Matt Johnson, although no official military record confirming that specific rank turned up in the reporting on this case. On July 3, 2024, Jennifer Gledhill filed for divorce. 7 weeks later, on August 21st, she went further and filed for a protective order against Johnson. A judge granted it temporarily. On September 10th, a court commissioner recommended extending it another week while the evidence was being reviewed. Then, on September 16th, the order was dismissed. The commissioner found that what Gledhill had submitted, including videos she'd recorded herself, did not meet Utah's legal definition of abuse. But the ruling didn't waive the conflict away entirely. The commissioner wrote that Johnson's conduct approaches the line of placing Gledhill in reasonable fear without crossing it, and described the marriage itself as highly dysfunctional. The order, which had separately and rather unusually accidentally expired, was formally closed the same day. 4 days later, Matthew Johnson would be seen for the last time. What follows is the timeline investigators pieced together afterward, from text messages, GPS pings, and surveillance video. Some of it comes from documents. Some of it comes from one source whose name has never been made public. We'll keep track of which is which as we go along. On September 18th, according to an unsealed search warrant affidavit, Jennifer texted her father, Thomas Gledhill, "I need $13K by Friday." Nothing on the record explains why. It's the first of several threads this case never quite ties off. The next day, a second message. "Don't forget to give me your card information." Thomas sent her $1,000 through Venmo that same day, according to reporting that cited Fox 13, and separately, the man who says he was having an affair with Jennifer told police that on the same day, September 19th, she showed him a loaded handgun, a tan and green Glock 19X, and told him it belonged to her husband. Then September 20th, a neighbor saw Johnson's truck backed into the garage. That's the last confirmed sighting anyone has of him. Gledhill later told police the two of them argued that day. A neighbor says the argument carried into the early hours of the next morning. though that comes from a single uncorroborated witness account. And here is where the record itself splits on something as basic as the date. Gledhill points to September 20th. The state's charging document, backed by the informant, points to the 21st. There's no forensic timeline to settle it because there has never been a body to establish one. According to the informant, this is what Jennifer told him, that on the night of the 21st, she shot Matthew in the head with his own 9mm Glock, the same Glock 19X he says she'd shown him 2 nights before. As they slept, moved his body in a rooftop cargo container down the stairs and into her minivan, and buried him in a shallow grave up north. It's his account, relayed to police, not an eyewitness record, never tested in front of a jury. It is nonetheless the foundation of the murder charge. Somewhere in that same window, according to the informant's account, communication from Matthew to his 3 children stopped. 5, 7, and 11 years old. And after that night, by his account, nothing. What can be verified independently picks up the next morning. Around 6 a.m. on September 22nd, Gledhill's phone is already moving through the area where Johnson's truck will later turn up. By early afternoon, it's heading north on I-215 and then Legacy Parkway towards Davis County, with a 4-minute call to her father along the way. At 2:37, it goes dark. For roughly 2 hours, nothing. When it resurfaces just after 5, a camera at a Maverick gas station in Centerville catches her Chrysler Pacifica in frame. Later that night, between 10:37 and 11:07, a second camera at a Holiday Oil car wash on Highland Drive records her scrubbing the vehicle down, every door open. By midnight, her phone is back at the informant's house. He says she arrived visibly distraught and confessed. Now, none of that, the drive, the 2 hours of silence, the car wash, proves on its own what happened during that window. What it does is lock her phone and her vehicle into a corroborated timeline the state says lines up almost to the hour with when Johnson's body was allegedly being moved. A drive north, 2 hours of silence, a car wash before midnight, then his house. The next day, September 23rd, Johnson didn't show up to work. On September 24th, 2 things happened. Gledhill contacted Cotton Heights police to report an incident. The charging documents don't say what that meant, and a neighbor, along with the neighbor's mother, later told police they saw Gledhill's parents at the house that evening, roughly from 5 to 11 p.m., every light on, cleaning. Gledhill also ordered a replacement mattress that day. On September 25th, a fellow National Guard member, identified in court records only by the initials AC, asked Cottonwood Heights police for a welfare check. Johnson hadn't returned to duty. The mattress arrived on September 26th. Thomas Gledhill texted his daughter to confirm delivery. Then, on September 28th, Jennifer Gledhill called the police herself. She spoke with Officer G. Comager and formally reported Matthew Johnson missing, saying she hadn't seen or heard from him since their argument on the 20th, and that he'd told her he'd been gone for a week. Comager would later describe her in his notes as sounding distracted and nervous on the call. Around this same time, the confidential informant contacted police on his own and relayed what he says Gledhill had told him 6 days earlier, bringing screenshots of deleted text and WhatsApp messages and a recorded phone call. And that's the turn. Up to this point, it's a missing person inquiry, a guardsman who didn't show up for duty, a wife's report, a friend's welfare check. From here forward, it's a homicide investigation. 2 days after the missing person report, on September 30th, detectives found Johnson's truck parked about 0.3 miles from the family home. Doorbell footage from a nearby house showed it had already been sitting there since 6:15 that morning, September 21st. Johnson's phone was still inside. The master bedroom told its own story. According to the charging document, investigators found a mattress that looked recently bought, resting on a bare wooden frame with no box spring. Fresh wipe marks on the wall behind the bed described as covered in bleach. Reddish-brown spotting on the walls, the frame, the blinds, and on the carpet, in the one spot where a sleeping person's head would rest, a circular stain that field tested positive for human blood. The Utah State Crime Lab later confirmed it came from a single male source. Comparison to Johnson's own DNA was still pending when the charges were filed in October. By the following March, prosecutors would tell a courtroom the comparison had come back and the blood was his. The cleaning evidence wasn't confined to the bedroom. The basement smelled strongly of chlorine. Black carpet on the stairs showed bleach discoloration on several steps. A carpet cleaner sat nearby, later collected as evidence. That basement connects to September 24th, the same day neighbors watched Gledhill's parents spend roughly 6 hours at the house, every light on, and the same day Rosalie Gledhill admits she ordered her daughter's replacement mattress. The search didn't stop at the house either. In Gledhill's Chrysler Pacifica, rear seats folded down for extra cargo room. Investigators found a box of powdered plant substance, a fanny pack holding 6 bags of what looked like psilocybin mushrooms, and $206 in cash. That find became the basis for the drug charge against her. At her parents' home, in a tote near the bed she used when she stayed there, a green and tan Glock 19X gun box, one handle broken, wrapped inside a child's onesie. Consistent, the informant says, with the gun he claims she showed him. That gun has never turned up. And one gap stood out by its absence. No computers, no laptops, nothing but a modem and a router in the living room. What investigators did find was an account tied to a UFI home security system Johnson had reportedly installed himself. Reportedly, the very system that led him to discover his wife's affair. Whether any footage from it survived isn't something the record answers. Not all of the state's evidence turned up inside a house. Some of it came back on its own. The informant had told police about a rooftop cargo container, the kind you'd strap to a car roof for extra storage, that he says Gledhill used to move Johnson's body down the stairs. Detectives noted the container had been found at the home before, on prior occasions, and that it had since disappeared. Months later, it turned up again, recovered from a wetland in Davis County, where investigators believe it had floated to the surface after a storm. According to statements prosecutors made in court in March of 2025, testing found traces of Johnson's blood inside it. Prosecutors also pointed, at that same hearing, to a photograph from 2023, recovered from Gledhill's phone, showing Johnson next to a rug. They allege that same rug is one of several items, along with a mattress topper and pillows, that Gledhill later discarded. And that phone location data placed her at the site where they were found. The defense noted at the time that no DNA or blood evidence had yet tied those specific items directly to the killing. The digital record added its own layer. The informant told police he'd taken screenshots of Gledhill's messages even as she was actively deleting them. Among them, one in which she allegedly wrote, in response to a hypothetical scenario, "Let me get my shovel." And another one afterward, "I washed everything and vacuumed and it's not an issue anymore." The deletion of those messages became the basis for one of the obstruction charges. He also recorded at least one phone call with her that she then turned over to the police. Prosecutors quoted portions of it in court, including a moment where Gledhill allegedly asked him not to think of her as a monster and referred to Johnson in the past tense. One thread here, though, never got pulled all the way through. After police seized Rosalie Gledhill's phone, It was reportedly reset remotely, its location and data history wiped for the exact period investigators needed the most. No source reviewed for this case explains who did that or why. On October 2nd, 2024, Jennifer Gledhill was arrested, initially on suspicion of murder and obstruction of justice. Some early reporting at the time said she'd already been formally charged. That wasn't accurate. The charges themselves wouldn't come for another 2 weeks. On October 15th, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill announced 9 felony charges. The information was filed by Deputy District Attorney Joshua Graves. It was sworn by Braden Phelps, the Cottonwood Heights detective who served as lead affiant on the probable cause statement, with detectives Alcivar and S. Winters also named as witnesses. The case was assigned then to Judge Adam Moe of Utah's 3rd District Court. The charges: first-degree murder, classified as domestic violence, 5 counts of second-degree felony obstruction of justice, 1 each for the deleted messages, the disposed mattress, the cleaned house, the disposed gun, and the moved truck. Second-degree felony possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. Third-degree felony abuse of desecration of a human body. And third-degree felony witness tampering, tied to the informant's accounts that Gledhill told him it was not a crime to not say anything. She was held on a no-bail warrant. On October 21st, she appeared in court by video from jail. A commissioner, Todd Olson, signed a temporary protective order barring her from any contact with her 3 children, 5, 7, and 11 at the time. Their father's contact with them, according to the informant's account, had ended on one specific night in September and never resumed. A month later, this order cut off their mothers too. Within about a month, 3 children had effectively lost contact with both parents. One of them through what prosecutors allege was murder, the other through a court order tied to the case that followed. 3 days later, her parents were arrested. Thomas Ray Gledhill, 71, and Rosalie Christensen Gledhill, 67, on suspicion of obstruction of justice. Early headlines described Thomas as facing 3 counts, Rosalie 4. One legal analyst suggested on the record that the arrest might function as a leverage, a way to encourage Jennifer's cooperation. But here's where the record gets murky, and it's worth being precise. Those were not arrests, not formal charges. Reporting from April of 2025 through as recently as January of 2026 states explicitly that no information was ever filed against either parent. What the district attorney's office ultimately decided about Thomas and Rosalie Gledhill isn't established in the sources available for this case. On February 6, 2025, Jennifer Gledhill pleaded not guilty to all 9 counts. About 3 weeks later, at a pre-trial conference, her defense signaled it would seek a reconsideration of her no-bail detention. That effort, though, came to a head at a detention hearing on March 1st. Prosecutor Emily Paulos laid out the state's evidence in open court. The blood-stained carpet, the bed slats, the DNA findings she said confirmed the blood was Johnson's, the rooftop container recovered from the wetland with traces of his blood inside, the 2023 photograph of Johnson beside the rug, the recorded call, Johnson in the past tense, the request not to be seen as a monster. Defense attorney Jeremy Diaz pushed back. Could an adult body even fit inside the container the state described? No murder weapon has ever been found. Neither has Johnson's body. And Diaz raised something specific to who Matthew Johnson was, a member of a special forces unit with the training that comes with it, as a possible alternative explanation for a prolonged, unexplained absence. It's an argument, not an established fact, but it's the core of the defense's position. The state's account isn't fully corroborated by physical evidence. The judge, however, denied bail. Finding Gledhill posed what the ruling called a substantial danger to the community. That decision has held through every delay since. The following month, previously sealed search warrant affidavits were unsealed, kept sealed in total for roughly 6 months. They'd authorized searches of the marital home, Gledhill's vehicle, her cell phone, her parents' residence, and eventually, Thomas Gledhill's financial and phone records. That last category is where the 13K by Friday text first became public. It's also where reporting confirmed again that Jennifer's parents, despite their arrests 6 months earlier, had not been formally charged. Later that month, it surfaced that Prudential Insurance was withholding a $500,000 life insurance payout on Johnson's policy. Gledhill is the sole named beneficiary. The same 3 kids just barred from seeing her are not. The insurer asked the court to hold the funds until the criminal case is resolved, worried, according to the filing, about paying the money to the wrong person. The trial itself has been a moving target. Originally set for December of 2025, it moved to June of 2026 after attorneys told the court at a November hearing that they weren't ready. A separate evidentiary hearing was on the calendar for that same window, centered on a defense motion to limit the use of the informant's audio recordings at trial. It, too, slipped to March of 2026, when the defense withdrew the motion after the judge confirmed on the record that Gledhill understood the recordings could be used against her. A pre-trial conference followed on April 10th. Then, on May 7th, 2026, the trial was delayed a 3rd time. Not for lack of readiness, but because a different prosecutor now on the case, Jamie Wideaway, was also assigned to an unrelated murder trial ahead of Gledhill's on the same judge's calendar, and couldn't prepare for 2 at once. The 7-day trial is now set to open with jury selection on December 7th, 2026, running through December 11th, and again from December 14th through the 16th. That's 3 trial dates set for this case since the charges were filed. December 2025, then June 2026, and now December 2027. And so far, none of them has actually happened. And as of the most recent reporting available, May of 2026, Matthew Johnson's remains have still not been found. The search has been extensive. Cottonwoods Heights Police, supplemented by U.S. Army Reserve personnel, have used foot teams and drones to comb the Farmington Bay wetlands of the Great Salt Lake, territory tied to Gledhill's GPS data from that September afternoon. It's difficult terrain. At least one news outlet consulted a former FBI agent about just how hard body recovery can be in ground like that. For over a year, the searches have continued, intermittently, without results. That fellow guardsman from earlier has a name, John Hash, a Green Beret who spent 12 years in the same unit as Matthew Johnson. 12 years is a long time to serve beside someone. When the searches went quiet, Hash didn't. His message stated publicly and simply, you don't give up. You leave no one behind. You bring him home. It's also worth noting what the record does not contain. No source reviewed for this case documents any confirmed investigative error, evidence suppression, or any kind of procedural misconduct by Cottonwood Heights Police or the District Attorney's Office. The reset phone is still the one thread nobody has explained. A case like this is defined by as much what hasn't been settled as by what has, and several of the questions raised along the way never got answered. So let's start with what still doesn't add up. The reset phone. No source has ever explained who did it or why. The $13,000 text, sent 3 days before the night prosecutors alleged Johnson was killed, never explained on the record. Whether Thomas or Rosalie Gledhill will ever face formal charges, still, as of the most recent reporting, an open question. An arrest from October of 2024 that has never resolved into anything more or less. And the DNA match itself, the blood investigators say is Johnson's, rests on what prosecutors told the judge in open court. The underlying lab report has not been independently reviewed in the reporting of this case. Then there's what nobody has been able to find at all. The exact night of the killing. The 20th or the 21st. Depends on whose account you believe. And there's no forensic timeline to settle it, because there's no body. The precise location where investigators think Johnson is buried is still unknown. GPS data points towards the wetlands of Davis County in general, not a spot on the map. And the identity of the informant himself, the one source from the very start of this story, the one whose account built almost all of it, has never been made public. Even the people at the center of it remain, in some ways, undefined by the public record. Beyond his National Guard service, Matthew Johnson's civilian life was not established in the sources reviewed for this case. Neither was Jennifer Gledhill's occupation or background before her arrest. Here is where this case actually stands, as of the most recent information available. Jennifer Gledhill has pleaded not guilty to all 9 counts. She's waived her right to a preliminary hearing and has been ordered to stand trial. She remains in custody, held without bail. No jury has heard this case. No jury has reached a verdict. Under the law, she is presumed innocent unless and until that changes. Her parents were arrested in October of 2024. No formal charges had been confirmed against either of them. 3 children, 5, 7, and 11, when their father disappeared, still haven't been allowed contact with their mother. A $5,000 life insurance policy sits frozen in legal limbo. In Matthew Johnson, a soldier, a father of 3, a guardsman who served for years beside people like John Hash, has not been found. Not in the wetlands outside Salt Lake City. Not anywhere else investigators have searched. Whatever a jury decides this December, it will decide it without him. That trial is scheduled to begin with jury selection on December 7th, 2026. Until then, this is a story without an ending. 3 kids who still haven't been allowed contact with their mother. A $13,000 question nobody has answered. A body nobody has found. Just a date on a calendar. And a family still waiting to find out what a jury believes happened to Matthew Johnson. If this case stuck with you, let us know in the comments. And if you want to see more cases like this one, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one.